Yeah.
Well, this is a great point. Do you know why I have to use a private jet? Because Congress made it mandatory.
Okay. In April 5th, well, we didn't make it mandatory that you go to UFC games with Mel Gibson.
Are you telling me I can't go home?
You got to use some judgment here.
So when I'm at home, I can't do what I'm doing when I go home. Everybody else is allowed to go home, just not me.
Senator Peter Welch of Vermont did not come to this hearing to grandstand. He came with dates, flight records, names, and numbers. He began by condemning political violence and praising the FBI's work after the killing of Charlie Kirk. Then he turned to Director Kash Patel. Welch pressed him on a public statement made before the real suspect was captured, the firing of decorated agent Brian Driscoll, and 3 taxpayer-funded trips tied to Las Vegas, New York, and Miami. Patel defended each decision. But when Welch asked how much the flights cost, no number came. Watch how the record is built, question by question, and where Patel's answers begin to break.
When Emil Bove demanded a list of FBI agents who investigated January 6th and was apprehensive that what did happen ultimately would happen, and that is those folks would get fired. I mean, do you agree with me that a boss who stands up for his subordinates when they did the job that was asked of them is a stand-up person and somebody to be admired?
Generally speaking, yes, sir.
Pardon me?
Generally speaking, yes, sir.
But Driscoll got fired, right?
Again, that matter is under litigation, and the matter you referenced occurred before I was director.
Let's just keep it really narrow here. He's fired, right?
Yes, he was terminated.
And he has to be, somebody communicates to him that he's terminated, correct?
That's my job.
That's your job. So you communicated to him that he was fired.
I did.
So, I have a hard time with this because that record suggests to me that this person is like worthy of consideration for the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and he got fired.
But there's also a record of other information that was available, and now that this matter is pending litigation, we will get that out in due course. But as you can agree,
so you've got, quote, other information that you see as a valid basis to fire somebody who, from what I can tell, had an absolutely outstanding record and who crossed the threshold of getting in trouble because he was standing up for agents serving under him who did work that was assigned to them that happened to be related to the January 6th uprising.
Again, you're correlating based on your information the reasons for his termination. And I'm telling you,
that's right. Let me ask you another question. When you were here, you were rightly critical, not here actually, I guess it was on Kash's corner. You were rightly critical of the way that the previous FBI director used the FBI jet. And you said you wanted to ground Chris Wray's private jet travel that he pays for with taxpayer dollars to hop around the country. Let me ask you this. On the weekend of, according to flight tracker data, on the weekend of March 7th, an FBI plane flew round trip from D.C. to Las Vegas, and you attended a UFC fight with Mel Gibson, and I'll show you that. Is that you, and is that true?
Yeah, you want to know the difference? I live in Las Vegas. I'm allowed to go home. I didn't leave a congressional hearing early on an FBI jet to dodge questions.
All right. Then on April 5th, you attended a hockey game in New York City. You don't live there, right?
No, I don't.
By the way, everyday FBI agents who are assigned in Washington don't get to fly home on a private jet.
Well, this is a great point. Do you know why I have to use a private jet? Because Congress made it mandatory.
Okay. In April 5th, well, we didn't make it mandatory that you go to UFC games with Mel Gibson.
Are you telling me I can't go home?
You got to use some judgment here.
So when I'm at home, I can't do what I'm doing when I go home. Everybody else is allowed to go home, just not me.
Let me keep going. No, I'm glad you go home. I love to go home. But I don't go home on a private jet. On April 5th,
you're not mandated to do so.
You attended a hockey game in New York City with Wayne Gretzky, and Flight Tracker says the FBI jet took you to and from New York City, where you don't live, right?
That's correct.
And on April 12th, on the following weekend, you attended a UFC fight, a fight in Miami, also on the FBI jet, right?
That's correct.
So what's the cost to the taxpayer for those 3 flights?
I pay the commercial equivalent per the regs and the law. And so just so you know, when you are comparing me to prior directors.
I asked what the cost was, and you don't know. I take it.
Yeah, and what I've done with the use of the private jet is use Andrews Air Force Base versus
Okay.
Reagan National as what the other directors have done
Bottom line
to
here,
save the taxpayer
bottom
dollars.
line here, you flew home to Las Vegas. There's nobody else in the FBI who gets paid. They have to pay their own way if they want to go home, right? I mean, right?
Well, that's not accurate. Depending on where you're stationed, the FBI covers the bill to get home.
So are you telling me that FBI agents who are assigned in Washington, but who may live in Charlotte, they get paid by the FBI to go
Sometimes
home?
they do, yes.
Right. Another thing I want to say is this. You know, our local law enforcement has been stiffed. About $500 million in COP grants have been taken out of the budget. Those really help us in Burlington. They help us in Rutland. They really are important. And why in the world would we be cutting those COP grants when we need that local law enforcement, in part to partner with you?
Well, I
Do
think
you
you're
support that?
I think you're speaking to the Department of Justice grants, which I don't adjudicate, but also Vermont, just like every other state, has received a plus-up of FBI personnel.
Well, I'll tell you, that's not what we're seeing. The other thing, my understanding is that there's a requisition or an effort to get another plane for the FBI that would cost about $72 million. Is that right?
That's inaccurate. The FBI, because the jet, as you call it, is not my jet. We use it for operational needs. We use it for FTOX. We use it for HRT.
But that's the one you fly in, right?
We have multiple fixed-wing assets, and one of them is on a wildly expensive lease that I deemed a waste of money, and I'm looking for a replacement in which the government can procure assets permanently.
Well, I would welcome you submitting to this committee the cost information about the jets that are under consideration. And according to our research, the specifications that are included in this request would result in an expenditure of between $72 million and $80 million.
That's inaccurate, but I'll happily get you the right
I
numbers.
welcome getting the specific information.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Peter Welch did not leave this hearing with every answer, but he did leave a record. Brian Driscoll had served more than 18 years at the FBI. He had commanded the hostage rescue team, supervised 55 SWAT teams, and received a Medal of Valor. According to Welch, Driscoll resisted a demand for the names of agents who worked on January 6th investigations because he feared those agents would be removed. Then Driscoll was terminated. Kash Patel confirmed the termination. He confirmed that communicating it was his responsibility, and he confirmed that he personally delivered the decision. Patel said there was other information. He said the matter was under litigation. He said the full record would emerge in due course. But that answer did not resolve the conflict already entered into the permanent record. A decorated agent was dismissed. Welch connected that dismissal to the defense of subordinates who carried out assigned investigations. Patel rejected that correlation, but he did not disclose the alternative basis during the hearing. Then the timeline moved to the aircraft. Welch cited flight tracking data: March 7th, Washington to Las Vegas; April 5th, New York City; April 12th, Miami; UFC events, a hockey game, Mel Gibson, Wayne Gretzky. Patel confirmed the travel described in the questioning. He argued that security rules required him to use government aircraft. He said he was permitted to return home. He said he reimbursed the commercial equivalent and had changed departure locations to reduce costs. But Welch asked a narrower question. What did the 3 trips cost the taxpayer? No number entered the record. That matters because reimbursement is not the same as total operating cost. The hearing established that Patel paid an equivalent commercial fare. It did not establish the full cost of the aircraft, crew, security, fuel, or operations associated with those trips. The final dispute involved another plane. According to Welch, committee research indicated that the specifications under consideration could produce a cost between $72 and $80 million. Patel called that figure inaccurate. He said the FBI was seeking to replace an expensive leased aircraft with a permanently owned asset. That may be true, but the supporting numbers were not produced in the room. Patel promised to provide them later. So the record closed with 3 unresolved files: the reason for Driscoll's termination, the real cost of the confirmed travel, and the actual price of the proposed aircraft. This is how institutional trust is tested, not by volume, not by party loyalty, by whether officials can place evidence beside their decisions and make the timeline withstand examination. Power creates explanations. Accountability requires the documents.